Good day and welcome back. I'm sure most of us are still in the middle of finishing off the Divine Party Winter Sun event, and by finish off I mean there's still 5 days, so we're probably in the middle of it right now. But today we are going to be going through what the cheapest chest paths are for every level of this event. You know, we've done this before because you want to find the key as soon as possible on every level to give you the best advantage in the event. And so, as usual, our good friend Kel has posted all of the event maps with the elements that are required for each fight and the cheapest chest costs displayed on these various maps. And we do have these for every single level, but I'm just going to go from level 3 to level 6 today because, you know, we've had a few days of the event and most people are really going to struggle potentially with the later levels rather than, you know, level 1 and 2. So I do have these open, but once again, thank you to Kel. Those can all be found in the DML events guide section of the Discord server in case you do want to take a look at them yourself. But we do have them open here. So to begin with, we've got level 3, and in level 2 there were a lot of Void requiring fights, a few other elements, and it does seem like Void has a little bit of a place in a lot of these fights, but you can see that in terms of the cheapest paths, we start in the bottom left on level 3, and so the cheapest one is the not furthest right, but the one next to the furthest right path, and then the best thing to do is go back up to the nearest left, and then the middle, then the top left, then the bottom right. So level 3 is a little bit of a doozy that has you, you know, going backwards and forwards, because if I open up the game and we take a look at level 3, basically the cheapest path, which I didn't have at the time, was to go through here, up this way, squiggle squaggle to that one, come up here, squiggle squaggle here, and then it's just going up and then backwards and forwards. So level 3 is a complicated mess, shall we say. And then level 4, it's a very linear sort of map, so not quite as squiggly, not quite as confusing. And if we do use the event guide here, then we start at the bottom right, and then the cheapest one is to go to the far left, then to the far right, then to the front middle, and then the middle, and then you continue from the number 1 red path onto the light blue path. So once again, if we follow this on in-game, the idea is to go up here to the left, and then come back over to the right, middle here, 4th, 5th being up here. So, you know, again, rather than me continuing on this path, the cheapest thing to do is actually continue on this right hand side, which I will continue on with a moment. But don't forget that the elements are displayed on these maps. So, for instance, on this level there's a few metal and a few plant and, you know, a couple of fire and void fights as well. So if you can't do any of these fights, either you're going to have to go around them or you're going to have to skip them. And you should take these into account because if you can't do a fight, it could change drastically which is the cheapest path. Because, you know, on level 4, for example, the cheapest to most expensive is 1,740 to 1,950. So there's not a ridiculous difference. But if you factor in having to skip fights, that does change quite a lot. So keep all of that in mind. And then moving on to level 5, that does become a much more spread out level once again. And I don't have this unlocked in game yet, but we start at the bottom of the level 5 map. We go north, and then you're first going to go to the right, then you're going to go to the middle, then to the bottom left, top, and then top right. And level 5 seems to be a predominantly energy, plant, and void sort of level, so you know, those are some elements that you may not have in a team, mainly void and plant these days, because, you know, they're not really as used as some other elements. But, you know, I'll be okay with the energy ones and the void ones, so thank you Erlangshen and Ikez. But especially from level 5 onwards, only being able to use 3 elements is really going to restrict you, so I hope you have the elements that you need. And then level 6, of course, is going to be the most expensive and the longest. We have seen all these maps before, but you know, they can change costs and things like that, so that's why people go through and sort of do them again. But here we have big level 6, and it is actually cheapest if you can do all the fights to go directly up to number 1 right in the north. Then you'll be going right up to the north of battle and then going top left, so the furthest left chest would be number 2, and then you'll come back to the first battle of level 6 and go to the bottom right, then bottom left, and then top right. So red, I guess deep yellow, bright yellow, green, blue. Those are the paths. And again, mainly void, light, metal on these levels. So, well, there's a lot of shadow as well. So unless you've got void shadow dragons, you may end up having to skip some fights and it may change the chest paths that you want to go down. But these are all the maps. And again, you can download all of these yourself if you join the Discord server, if it makes them easier to look at. But again, I can't stress enough how important it can be. Like, there's not a massive difference in the chest costs on these levels, because when they originally made the event, I think they sort of took that into account. But it can change your event experience. Say if you get the key in your 3rd chest, and it's cost you like 700 less, that can still help you out. And if you take into account every single level where you do that, it can make a big difference. But I think mainly it's good to just get into the habit of doing it for like any future events, because there have definitely been some events in DML where if you don't go to the cheapest pass first, you can find yourself severely behind. And that's the reason why, you know, for a very long time we've been doing the event guides. It's just this time, you know, Kel did them this time. I can't thank the guys enough that put together the maps when I don't do them. You know, it's just like a thank goodness someone has done it. At least then, we know that we are trying our best, employing every tactic that we possibly can to do these castle events. There's nothing else that you can really do, especially considering how buggy this event was. Because if you weren't aware, I didn't point it out at the time, but the event did start with a massive bug, because everyone started with a different event currency amount, and the reason that happened is because they just gave everyone the event currency that they ended the previous castle event with. Which, you know, in theory could be implemented okay, but they don't want that and they didn't want that. It was a mistake, and some people started the event with like 45,000 currency. So, yeah, a lot of people are saying that that's very unfair Game Loft. So, I don't know if they're gonna do anything about it at this point, or if they're just gonna be like, ah, hell, who cares at this point. But that's why you may have ended up only being able to get to level 2, or you may have been able to get to level 4 at the beginning of the event. It was a bug. For some, a very convenient bug, for others, a very unfair one. So, that is that. But of course, I'm doing my castle event quests right now, because we need to be collecting from every single reset. I should not have been breeding the war dragon there, by the way. That was just habit, me clicking that. If you do want to know the actual points that we can get for breeding dragons, then for example, this is a 300 point table, which means that for the breeding, we do actually have a breeding guide as well for you to get enough castle event currency, and it's in this little table here. Don't mind the actual event currency that's displayed, but for example, war dragons give you 250 event currency, and then after that, it goes up to a 6-hour breed for the Lumino and Mist dragons, and that's how you can get at least 300 event currency with Fire and Void and Wind plus Void. And then obviously, as the event currency amounts that you can earn go up, you might need to breed different dragons like Jungle, Missile, Nightmare, things like that. So we do also have this in the event guide section. You know, anything that pertains to quests in castle events, or doing castle events, or doing events in general. Generally speaking, we've probably gone through it about 1,000,000 times at this point. But this is the table. You should also be able to find that on the DML wiki. But just letting you know that it exists there as well, if you just want to download an image file nice and quick. But, you know, don't be like me. Don't just click War Dragon breedings out of force of habit. Don't do it. Doesn't matter how many times I tell you not to do it, you'll probably do it by accident sometimes like I do. Oh god, this is like, it's like that time when I sold Frigg. I mean, that was definitely 100%, 1,000,000% intentional, by the way. Definitely not a mistake. But yes, it happens. Especially with these castle events where they get you having to feed a lot of dragons. And then you just get so used to clicking the feed and sell button. And it's like, oh yes, that was a divine, wasn't it? Oops. Oopsie, oopsie poopsie. Well, guess we'll get that one again in the future. I guess at least it was only Frigg, right? And it wasn't like Hathor or like Enroja. Imagine accidentally selling Enroja. And yes, if you do ever accidentally sell a dragon, you can get in touch with customer support and get it back. But one, you can only do that a limited amount of times. I think it's once, maybe twice in like a really, really unfortunate situation. But two, I just didn't care enough about Frigg. I'll be honest, I just didn't care enough. So it's not really worth the process of going through customer support just to get a dragon that I didn't really care about, honestly. So that is my reasoning. But, you know, in terms of this castle event, it does look like it should be easily doable for any free-to-play players because, you know, mainly castle events just come down to logging in. So, all things considered, so far this Divine Fest is looking quite free-to-play friendly. As long as you've stacked up some gems and you did some dungeon grinding in Dungeon Week 1, you should probably be able to get most of the dragons that you want from this event quite easily. Like, you might not be getting 4 divines, but you might be able to get 3 of them. And then Chrono Aphrodite on top. So, overall that's quite good, especially compared to some of the old events that we used to get. So, I am not going to complain. But anywho, let's go and open up this chest. I doubt it's going to have a key because that would be incredibly lucky, and it does not. It does not. So then we come back to this front chest, and again, I don't think we can open this, but this is an event where you don't want to be hoarding currency until you're on the final level. So make sure you spend all of it, try and get that key early. It's mainly level 2 that screwed me over. 5 out of 5? Really? You're going to do me dirty like that, game? But anyway, I'm on level 4 right now. I would love to have been on level 5 sooner, but, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles. If you did manage to start this event with like 40,000 event currency, then power to you. I just kind of, I kind of wish that I had that. At the same time, that's what I get for not collecting ridiculous amounts of event currency after the event's done, right? I just could not be bothered with that. I could not be bothered with that at all. But anyway, I'm not actually going to do this dungeon run because I did a lot of dungeon last week and it makes me very depressed when I have to do lots of dungeon, so I'm not going to do it. I'll still be doing it every so often, but the thing is with the dungeon, what you can do is you can start off a run and then come back later and continue the run then. And that's what I usually do. I usually do 2 dungeon runs in a row rather than having to do a dungeon reset every 6 hours. But obviously you still got to log into the game, open it up and click restart for that to happen. But that's a little technique you can do if you're like busy during a certain time frame. You don't have to like just do a really bad dungeon run. You can just wait until the next time you log in. As long as it's not like 13 hours later. Then I don't recommend it. But anyway, that is going to be us done for now. So once again, if you need any other tips for this Divine Party Winter Sun event, you can let me know. You can leave it in the Discord server. But just remember, this DML event guide section of the Discord does have all of these event guides pinned. And you know, you can see them for the old castle events as well if you want to. But they're all in there. Thank you to everyone that helped put these together. And you can also check the DML wikis page on it as well. But without further ado, I wish you the best, and I do hope that I can see you again once more in the future. Goodbye.